Think of our innovation, fintech rewriting the language of money, youth coding futures, from phone to cloud, from market stall to metaverse. Africa codes its own tomorrow. AI hubs spark across cities. E-governance moves at digital speed. This is not catch-up. This is leapfrog. Digital is Africa's unstoppable script.
Oh my God, it's happening. All right, how we all doing? We've been through this, we've been over this, so let's try that one more time. How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? You all good? You know who you're sitting next to? You having good conversation? Good, we just needed to give you a little extra time so you can really get to do that, because even when we're here, you're talking anyway, so we wanted to make it formal. So you finish those conversations. Right now, we're going to what has become one of my favorites at Unstoppable Africa. It's become a fixture every year. We do the panel of the future, and this year, oh, you're in for such a treat. Because we've talked about AI, startups, and the deals that fund them, and how we put it all together. So this is about building the ecosystem for homegrown tech to have global impact. We all want that, right? Exactly. It's about ensuring that Africa is a creator, not just a consumer, of the next generation of digital technology. Your next moderator is an entrepreneur, author, and the host of the fantastic podcast, My African Startup Story. Please welcome to the stage the CEO of Kitabu and Tribe Nation, Mr. Tony Ndungu. Awesome. And he will be leading this conversation with Mr. Sheikh Kamara, Vice President and Managing Director of Africa at ServiceNow, and Mr. Nuruddin Taibi, CEO and founder of Yasser. Take it away, Tony.
Thank you, Larry. Wow, the lights are bright. How's everyone this morning? Hello. Now, we respect and appreciate the powerlessness of manuals. So don't think we don't know this. But we have a very special guest that was sadly unable to make it today. There was supposed to be a powerhouse sitting here next to us, but she wasn't available this morning. So we are not disrespecting the power of women in this conversation. But I wanted to make sure we set it up for our sisters and our moms for sure. But I have got two fantastic gentlemen here. We're going to speak to what we think the future of Africa is. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves because there's no way to disrespect these young folks than trying to put them into a paragraph. And I'm not going to start right here. I'm going to start at the end with the doctor. Dr. Tayebi, please. Nordin, you are the CEO and founder of Yasser. I read the document, man. It's like 2 pages of who you are. Please give us a short summary of who's this man sitting right next to us, bro.
I honestly don't know what was provided to you. Probably my assistant wrote something. But so I'm from Algeria, so 100% African. Educated here in the U.S. Pretty much all my adult life spent here in the U.S. and then went back to the region where I'm from, which is not just Algeria, but like North Africa in general, where I started technology business. Today, Yasser is the largest or the most valuable tech company in the whole North Africa.
That's right.
We offer payment and on-demand services in pretty much all North African countries. And we actually became the largest employer of local software developers in the region, to the point where we not only hire local talent that is coming out of our universities, but even the folks that actually have left the region are coming back to join us. So yeah, that's what Yasser is about.
And then you're saying there was nothing to say, man. Come on, that's 2 pages. Give him a hand for one of the most influential companies and startups out of North Africa for sure. Sheikh, your story is a little bit different. So you're VP, first of all, but still, what you've done at ServiceNow has really set the tone for very many companies in the sub-Saharan space. Speak to us about that.
Thank you. So again, so my name is Sheikh Kamara, and I'm the VP and Managing Director for ServiceNow. ServiceNow is an AI platform for business transformation. And what we try to do is make sure we provide the infrastructure for people to build on in order for people to be successful. I'm actually a finance guy, right? So I'm actually a finance guy who landed in tech. So my background is actually in finance. So what I do is look at everything from a business perspective. I'm going to add a couple more things.
Right.
But when we think about AI or apps or starters, to me, the question always comes down to money, right? It's always about money. Everything we've talked about since you've been in this room since yesterday is about money. We call it different things. We call it investment, we call it capital, we call it different things.
Right.
But the question is always, can you get money, right? And I think framing the conversation that way is always very important because money is the reason why things are successful,
Right.
right?
Right.
And if you don't have money, if you don't have capital, those things don't work.
Can I push back?
Please do.
You said money. I say value.
Okay.
Because where there is value, capital follows. And for a long time, Africa has never provided itself as a place for value. It's only recently, both of you would know this, that Paystack got $200 million, that the investment from partners outside both the US and the UK did what they did, that my friend Karim Bagre got the $670 million for Instant Deep. Like, it's recent. This is stuff that's happened in the last decade. How do we show value if we're saying we are the future of technology? I see Dr. there.
Well,
something.
at some point, like to create that value, you need capital for sure. But then, of course, capital means that you're going to invest it, like in one way or another, to make it, to make more money out of it. And that wealth can generate, like more prospects to the region, more ventures, so on and so forth. So yeah, I do agree that capital becomes super important. And
so do you think that the capital
precursor.
is what we need right now? Is that what we think we're lacking? Or is it the innovative ideas?
No,
it's like what's missing for us as we look at the future?
Honestly, it's a combination of many things, and capital is one of them. And today we need to also realize that the capital is global. It's not just local.
Right.
And I think with the globalization and the want of like a lot of funds from all over the world, including Silicon Valley ones, to invest in like emerging markets is a great opportunity for companies, for instance, like ours and the ones that are emerging from the continent to create that value, create that wealth that could hopefully like have even a further impact.
Let me add to that because I think he said something very important. Money follows value and money follows returns.
Follows returns. There
right?
You go. Yes.
And money doesn't care whether you're black, white, or what continent it's in.
Mm-hmm.
You said Africa is starting to attract more money or more value, but Africa has always gotten money, right? If you think diamonds, if you think all our natural resources, we've always gotten money. The question is, how do we leverage it, and how do we make sure we use it correctly? But we've always gotten investment.
Right.
I think the issue's always been we as Africans or as black people, when we walk into a room to talk to investors, we tend to walk in with the weight of our continent behind us.
Right.
The weight of our history behind us. Right? So it's almost like...
Should we not?
No, I think it's actually an advantage. Right? It's actually an advantage because we walk in thinking we might maybe get a discount because we're African, but there's actually like a tax. Right? Yeah. There's actually like a tax because you're African.
Right.
So to me, it's always been, how do you walk into those rooms and be an amazing founder that happens to be African? Not an African founder coming to ask for money. Because if you're an African founder coming to ask money, it's going to cost you significantly more. So that's the distinction.
But is that distinction in your control, or is it the control of the folks that you're speaking to?
It doesn't matter. Because what you present is what matters. Right? When he walks in as a founder and he's able to raise money, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter where he's from. Right?
If he shows value and return, then on the balance sheet, he looks like a good investment.
Correct.
At the end of the day, investors want to make more money.
So then here's a question, because the panel, as it clearly discussed, is we're trying to figure out homegrown tech, global impact in the future. And that future is undeniably AI-driven, right? Just undeniably. It's a pattern recognition system. Strive was talking about it at the back, and he was basically saying that what we have, that we own, that cannot be taken away from us, just yet, not long term, but just yet, is data. Speak to me about data, because Yasser must have staggering amounts of data. How are you leveraging, and in fact, to your word, how are we leveraging on that?
We currently leverage it to to further the business forward. I mean, like we have wealth of data that we use for marketing, for risk scoring, for just like logistics, like so many aspects. And of course, machine learning and AI are at the heart of all that.
Right.
We own our data. Most of the countries currently we operate in, especially when it comes to payment and financial services, want the data to be hosted locally, so infrastructure becomes super important, and one needs to say it like today, like in a lot of the countries, at least we operate in, that infrastructure doesn't exist to the level of our ambitions.
Right.
And so that needs to, get there sooner than later. I mean, even personally, myself personally, like the level of the company, we're working on getting pretty much like our own data centers to be able to satisfy those needs, because we know that if it's in the hand of like others, it might not get to the level we want it to, and be able to achieve what we want.
Right.
So yeah.
So let me just get this right. So you're looking at not running with hyperscalers, you're looking at building out your own data center.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, at least in the region we operate in, like they don't exist.
This is interesting. Okay.
But that's because of regulations.
That's because of regulation.
Yeah. The regulations require that the data be hosted
On-prem,
locally.
locally hosted.
And today, those don't exist locally.
Which makes it almost impossible for global companies to go in. Because if you want your data to stay on-prem, it means you have data centers.
That's right.
Not that many African countries have data centers.
It's not that they don't, but they're not to the level of, say, like an ambitious tech company like ours, where things are, to be able to actually satisfy the needs.
And so you're forced to do it by yourself. Is this a good thing that there's regulation that prevents folks to come in, or is it a bad thing?
No, I think it's a mix. I think when, and this is something like the AFCFTA is working on, but if we can unite 54 countries and have one set of regulations, like he operates across a couple of different countries.
Right.
I can only imagine what it's like from country to country in terms of regulation, data regulations, sending money across borders. You want to talk about Mission Impossible? I mean, you should give him a round of applause. What he's done is absolutely amazing.
That's true. That's
true.
Right? You should give him a round of applause.
Yeah.
That makes it very, very difficult. Money looks for the path to least resistance. Where do I go in? Where is it easy to invest? Where is it infrastructure? Where is there talent? When those things exist, more investment comes, right? And when you have the stability and then you have the political systems in place, then more investment comes. But these regulations, they're for the right reasons, because we want to protect our data, right? Data is the oxygen for AI. If you lose your data, you lose everything.
Yeah.
But the regulations have to understand that they block some investment from coming in.
So then you give me a dual question setting as we speak to these folks, because many of them have some impact, some influence, they have networks, they have resources, and the biggest challenge we seem to be mentioning or talking about sits with governments. And African governments, as we know, are struggling to catch up with the AI, and just forget the infrastructure, just the policy around it.
Yeah.
So my two questions are this: what have you both, being successful entrepreneurs, done to support the up and coming? That's the first one. And then the second one is, what if you had a magic wand of sorts? Would be the thing that one or both of you would definitely want done today? Let's start with the second. Or the first, you could pick.
This is an endless list. Don't know where to start. I think, look, I mean, we tend to think about things as though, like other continents or, other countries have not faced those not that long ago. I mean, like if you look at even like European countries not long ago, like, they were in similar situations. But they were proactive at changing them and bringing, like that value. So if you talk about, like data and data centers, like they made sure that the big players in the world, the Amazon, the Google, and others, be actually stationed like in their countries, like and be able to kind of, like have both of best worlds, like keep the data locally and at the same time, like having the best technology out there. And today, like we need to realize that compute power becomes super important. I mean, of course, like we all hear about the NVIDIA chips and what they can do, so on and so forth. But like the reason why NVIDIA has such high market cap, and when you look at its revenue, it's like the multiple of revenue is like huge, is not, it's because it has so much demand that it cannot even satisfy.
That's right.
So, the market knows that this company is going to keep growing, like no matter what, because the demand is like endless. And because the demand is endless, like we need to know that, that kind of technology to be accessible is super hard. And that's why everyone is fighting for it. I mean, like, I don't know if you've seen, but like more recently, GCC countries are pushing super hard, like for big AI and big, chip makers to come into the region. I don't see that much happening within any country of the African continent. Maybe because there is no value proposition, like for these big players to actually come in. And then on the other hand, you have these policymakers, or let's say like decision makers, that just come up with these decisions because everyone else is doing them. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, like you need to host locally, you need to do X, Y, and Z, but they don't realize the impact this would actually have on say, for instance, technology company like ours. It actually limits you so much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's the responsibility of companies like ours to talk to these decision makers, make them understand what has to be done realistically, and kind of like what would be the roadmap to get there, and work with them actually closely to make it happen. And like always, people tell me, people always complain about like governments not making the right decisions or being slow. Or at the end of the day, to be honest, like every government is super slow. I think it's the burden of like companies like ours to be proactive, to actually push for the limits, and be persistent.
Right.
That's how change can make.
Yeah, that's how we make the unstoppable Africa tag stick. Yeah. Your thoughts?
I was going to say, I think we have to be ambassadors to government.
Right.
We have to provide our expertise to governments, because like you said, every government has their own AI policy for the next 10 years, right? But we have to be ambassadors, and we have to explain the consequences of, hey, if you put this policy in place, this is what it does to my business, right? I can't grow, I can't keep hiring people, this is what it does to my business.
Right.
So I think what he just described is what we call in the US lobbying. You have to lobby the government, you have to be able to work on policy, and you have to be able to have business-friendly policies to actually help your company grow and to help investment to come in.
Right.
But it's a very, very difficult task to do.
It's literally, it becomes part of your business model, to be honest.
I think so. I do think so as well. I think it is about most African businesses. We talked about this a little bit ago. When you start an African business, apart from the products you're selling, you're upskilling an industry, you're speaking to government for policy, you're supporting an education system that can retrain or train people to use your services and your products. You're dealing with clearing and forwarding, because a lot of the stuff you're shipping in yourself isn't available in country. And all of those are verticals when you started the business you were not thinking about. So there is that. But then to the second question, or the first question, younger African folks, like we know, and we've talked about it, 2050, 1 in 4 people will be looking like one of the 3 of us or more. Yeah. And they'll be coming from the African continent, and we will be the youngest and still largest growing workforce. What are you all doing for that future generation through your companies? You understand? Yes, sir?
I mean, for us, as I mentioned, it's really, like making sure that, like that talent has opportunities locally. Right. I think it's extremely important. And I think that's what's lacking. I personally see a lot of, like what are called like local African champions. But then when you look at the talent from the technology perspective, you find them having their technology teams based like in Europe or in the US or like other parts of the world. And those companies, don't take me wrong, they've done like great, and they're bringing so much value in the countries they currently operate in. But at the same time, like we need, as you said, like we need to look into, like what's going to happen in 2050. And having that homegrown talent that has the opportunities to actually, take things to the next level, not just like in terms of like job opportunities, but really creating value locally and globally, to me is the most important thing.
Nice. You work with HBCUs.
Yes.
Do you work with African universities? Putting you on the spot right there.
I do.
Speak to us about it.
Thank you for asking. So I think it should be all hands on deck when it comes to education, right? Free education, mentorship, sponsorships, apprenticeships, anything that upscales talent faster, it should be all hands on deck. I want to repeat something he just said, which is he has trouble finding the right talent. We talk about the underemployed or the unemployed people across the African continent. There are jobs. We just don't have the skills and able to fill those jobs.
That's right.
So we have to double down on investment. We have to say, hey, we are going to partner with this university, which we're doing in South Africa with ServiceNow University, right? Hey, here's the curriculum. Here's how we partner. Here's the training. How many kids, how many people can we train as quickly as possible?
That's right.
Right. I think that's step one. But again, the mentorship, the apprenticeship, because you will learn everything you need in school, but the real work-life balance is beyond critical. Right? And that's where the difference comes. So having people that are in these jobs already reach out to universities, reach out to the younger population to be able to bring them up is beyond critical. You talked about the work that we did for HBCUs.
Right.
Right? When I started at ServiceNow, this was 8 years ago, I was in Santa Clara, and I remember walking into the building, and after like a week, I realized there were 2 black people in my building. 2.
True.
I was one of them, and the security guard was the other one.
Wow.
Right, in my building. Right? The population of black people in California is 4%. So I didn't expect to see like black people running everywhere. I just wanted to see somebody else.
Right. And see you on the guard.
Correct.
Right.
So that's why I started partnering with HBCUs.
Right.
Because when I went to HBCUs and I said, hey, you guys need to learn about tech. You need to learn about these jobs. Because if you go to an HBCU, like a school anywhere in the South, the average salary is what, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000?
Right.
I'm like, hey, if you come to Silicon Valley and take one of these engineering jobs, the starting pay is like 140.
That's right.
That's a game changer, not for that kid, for that whole family. Right? So the question is, how do we do that in Africa?
Right.
Right? How do we build the talent in Africa? How do we become India
For the future.
for the future?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do we make sure there's so much talent that people hire has to work remotely? They pay our $100,000 fee for our H-1B visas. Like, how do we do that?
100,000. Can you speak to that for a little bit?
No, I mean,
Like, has anyone not seen that? Has everyone seen that? $100,000 a year, right?
yeah,
It's a year, right, for the H-1B1 visas?
yeah.
Right.
And that's for mostly tech talent.
That's mostly
And by the way, that's a problem that's been happening for over 20 years. It's not new. The US needs more talent than they produce. And it's going to keep happening. It's not going to stop. NVIDIA has grown 10x, I don't know how much over the last couple of years. Facebook is growing. Microsoft is growing. They need talent.
Yeah.
So they are jobs. So when I say we need to double down on education, every government official, every tech leader in the African continent should be focusing on education and figuring out what's the specific skill set that I need in a specific country to attract companies to come here.
I have a scenario. I am based out of Nairobi. Kitabu has been working in Nairobi for a decade and some.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the year, we are working with a couple of these AI folks. And at the beginning of the year, this 2025, they said, when we asked, what's the challenge with AI and the continent, to your point, a lot of what's happening in AI is outside of Africa. And they said, we're not sure where the talent is. So we did a call for a hackathon, an AI hackathon, and we were looking for 500 people. We got 13,800 applications from 18 countries. We were only looking for Kenyans. Now, we have 8 countries and 3,500 people doing an AI hackathon every Friday to Saturday. We've done 3 weeks, we've got 5 weeks to go. It's an 8-week program.
Yeah.
When we asked them, what would you want for an award? Like, what gifts or rewards would you want? We assumed they would say the usual, credits, a laptop, connectivity. They said no. We want to travel to Europe and or the US to see, not to stay, to see what it is they're doing that makes them unique that we don't have. I don't want to add anything to that, but I have a question for you both. What is it that you think we lack as a continent that has prevented more of your companies and your company and my company from scaling that we can fix in the next year or two? Say 5. And don't blame government. Don't say foreign direct investment. Like, what can we do sitting here and sitting in this room that we can make it so that more folks in the next panel of Unstoppable Africa, instead of it being 3, we're 12, and we're saying the same thing. What can we do now here as soon as possible? That's a tough question, I'm not gonna lie.
As soon as possible, I don't know. I'm sure there are like some like low-hanging fruits that that one can take advantage of, but like in general, I mean, to be honest, I mean, so I was, you know, like, as I said earlier, I grew up in Algeria. I came to the US for grad school, and pretty much all my adult life, like, you know, I spent it here in Silicon Valley. Like after I got my PhD, like I worked on like in big tech, and then took the entrepreneurial path. And when I went back to the region I'm from, one of the main things that actually, you know, got my attention is our value system is not, you know, like allowing us to actually move forward. And what I mean by value system, I mean the culture in general, you know, like within our countries. The way I define culture personally, it's like more like on anthropological point of view. It's really like a set of values that one will find like since birth actually, and will use that set of values subconsciously to impact his or her surroundings. And when we think about values, we always think about you know, moral values. Of course, moral values are important, but we don't think about, you know, the values of like generating ideas, being creative, having self-confidence, and things like that. And these, honestly, are the ones that I see are most lacking. What made Silicon Valley is, you know, these kind of values.
Audacity.
We don't have them.
That's a heavy one. All right.
And that is not going to be overnight. That's
that's a heavy one. Okay. I asked for answers. He gave me more questions. I like it. Let's go. What do you have?
I agree, but I think there's there's a medium between how do you put this? Modernization without westernization.
Modernization without westernization.
Correct.
Okay.
Because we come with different values. And those values mean that we will probably never be like the United States, but we have different values. And I think it's important to keep those values, right? Like, you, as Africans, you take care of your parents forever.
Ever.
No, I agree. But
Right?
that's why I said I'm not talking about moral values.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like values that can, you know, that are actually universal. I mean, generating ideas is like a universal value. It doesn't have to come from the West or the East. And at actually some point, our continent had them, right? Like when the biggest civilizations were on that continent. So.
No, because I don't think we lack anything, right? I think what we have to focus on is, again, for founders or investors, it's when you're having conversation, focus on the outcome and focus on the money, right? If I'm going to give you money, how much money am I going to get back?
Yeah.
And can I get my money back?
First.
Yes. Can
Not
I get my
when.
money back?
Can I just get my money back?
Can I get my money back?
Right.
Right? Because a lot of investors, when they look at Africa, it's like, oh, I'm going to invest, but I may not be able to get my money back. So how do we get more founders like him to teach younger founders how to raise money? There is more money than needed in the world right now. The question is, how do we attract it? How do we have those conversations? How do we present something that says, give me 10 million and the value will be Y, and this is the ROI that you get?
Right.
But I don't think we lack anything. I think it's just, how do we have those conversations?
I like that. I don't think we lack anything. It's just, how do we have those conversations? And then we need to find a way.
I'm not sure I agree, because, you know, like to get to that, you know, like X number on return.
Right.
You need to make it happen, and to be able to make it happen, you need, you know, like talent. That talent is not just about the skills; it's also about the mindset. It's about so many other things that, I mean, to be honest, today is greatly lacking. So, I mean, you would be able to raise money. Let's say you do that, but if you don't have the basis to actually make it happen, it's not only gonna fire back at you, but it can fire back at like a whole ecosystem within a certain region, because it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and then it does. Yeah, I get that. I totally get it. In closing, gentlemen, I want to give the beautiful folks who've been listening to us for the last couple of minutes 2 things you want to leave them with. And I say not one, but 2 things you want to leave them with. My personal thing I want to leave them with is, number 1, within their circle of influence, I would love all of you to start looking at yourselves different. That's the first thing. And then second, I'd like all of you to start doing Africa different. And this is what I mean by that. Folks like you should be the norm, not the exception. But that starts in the way we perceive each other and the way we perceive ourselves. What about you two? What would you like them to do?
I mean, for me, it's really simple. It's always be ambitious, trying to push the limits of what can be doable. First, in your immediate kind of surrounding, depending on what you're doing, and believe it's right. I mean, the other part is we need to also stop blaming the other. And for me, an entrepreneur is someone that challenges the status quo and always finds solutions to problems. So whenever we're faced with a problem, we just try to solve it. As simple as that. I think if we have these little steps and we do it collectively, it can have a huge impact.
2 things. Well, first thing, so I think a divided Africa will make sure that we fail. A united Africa will make sure that we succeed.
Say that slowly so that everyone hears it.
A divided Africa will fail. A united Africa will make sure that we succeed.
Can I ask a question? I mean, what do you mean by united Africa? Because whether Africa is really heterogeneous and you have so many countries.
Yeah.
So what is, and this is really a question, we always tend to, even when, when I'm here in the US, people talk about Africa as though it's one country. It's homogeneous. It's not. I mean, even, neighboring countries can be, very different.
Even inside a country, it can be very different.
What's that?
Even inside a country,
of
it can
course.
be very different.
And so when we speak about Africa and what do we mean by united? I mean, we don't hear united Latin America or united North America or united Europe or united Asia. Okay. So why do we always speak about Africa as united, and in what sense?
To me, so we've described a lot of the challenges that we're facing. I think making it easier to do business across African continents, making it easier to trade across African continents, right? Making it easier to send money across African continents, right? For me to travel from Bamako to Ethiopia, it's cheaper for me to fly from Bamako to Paris than Paris to Bamako, right? Making it easier to trade and to move across the African continent. To me, having the policies across the African continent that make it easier for us to communicate, to send money, to sell goods, to me, that's a major priority. For a tech company like myself, in terms of what we do at ServiceNow, the question is, how do we provide a platform that will enable countries to talk through one system? So I'm not looking at different systems in terms of the way things are done. So when I say a united Africa, I mean policies that make it easier for Africa to work together.
It's not just policies.
Just one more thing.
Sorry.
I'm very, very aware that even across Mali, there's different languages, different people that operate very differently. So we're never going to be one group of people. So that's never my...
It's not from that perspective.
Go ahead.
I mean, I agree with you on the policy side, but it goes also beyond that. I mean, you mentioned, for instance, being able to travel from one country to another. It's actually cheaper to actually go through Europe. Because the reason why that is because there isn't, for instance, enough trade between the different African countries to, for instance, why would you want to have, say, a flight, and I'm just shooting here, I don't know if it exists or not, but why would you want to have a flight, say, from Egypt to Botswana if there is...
No financial trade between...
Exactly, if there is no...
I get that. I think there's a political conversation to be had around East African communities, SADC, Sahel and all of that, but I hear it. And gentlemen, I appreciate having both of you here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand to Sheikh Kamara and Dr. Nordin Dayebi.
Thanks.
Thank you guys so much for this conversation. It was nice to be here. I hope you're all having a good time. And good man, Larry. The floor is yours one more time.